Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In the series of pattern printing, so far we have seen so many patterns. In this video, we will see how we can print this particular pattern. So for that, if you carefully observe this pattern, we have 5 rows. So to get these 5 rows, I am using a variable rows. So I'm using a value 5 because we have 5 rows here. Later, we will dynamically take input from the user. Based on the user input, we will print the rows and this particular pattern here. So initially, what I will be doing is that as we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. For that reason, I will use a for loop to generate these 5 rows because these are repeating, right? We are getting 5 rows. We can actually use a loop to get these 5 rows. For that reason, I will use a for loop for I in range. I will be generating a range of values. So what would be the range of values? So the range of values would be, as we are starting with 1, as we need to go till the value of rows. For that reason, I am mentioning 1 and rows plus 1 because I am starting with 1. I need to go till the value of rows. So for that reason, I am mentioning rows plus 1 because for this range function only take the value whatever the mentioned value that we have to the previous value. For that reason, I am mentioning rows plus 1. So in this for loop, what we will be doing is that we need to track this particular pattern. Before actually doing that, just know what we have in this value I. So for that, I am printing the value I. Based on that, we will print and go ahead to get this particular pattern. So if I execute this, I can able to get the value as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is what we have expected, right? That is what the range that we have generated. So if you could compare this particular I result with this particular pattern, we are getting the values as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this last lines here, in this last pattern, in this last series here. So by observing this pattern, by observing this particular I result, we can able to conclude that on each row, we are starting with the value 1 and we are going till the value of I, right? In the first row, we are starting with 1 and we are going till the value of I, which is 1. In the second row, we are starting with 1 and we are going till the value of I. In the third row, we are starting with 1 and we are going till the value of 5. So if we could mention a statement so that we need to start with 1 and we need to go till the value of I so that we can able to print this row, right? So and one more thing is that these rows are repeating. On each row, we are starting with 1, we are going till the value of I. So what we do generally when we have repeated statements, we generally use loops, right? So that is what we will be doing next. We will use one more loop in this outer for loop that will become inner for loop, right? So for that reason, I am using a for loop and a variable j in range. So as we have discussed, the range will be starting with 1 till the value of I plus 1. So that is what we will be doing here. So instead of putting I here, so we will put j here. So if you put j here, why I am putting j here? Because we are starting with 1 and we are going till the value of I. So that is what we are generating through this range function, right? So for that reason only I am mentioning j here. So if we could execute this, so something wrong in this, so we need to put in here. So if we could execute this, we are getting the values as 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, like that we are getting the values. The only thing we need to do is that we need to arrange these values to get this particular pattern, right? So for that reason, I will use an end here. So because by default this print statement having an end with new line character, now I am replacing this new line character with a space. So that is what I am doing here. If we execute this, we are getting everything in a single line. So that is not also what we wanted. We need to get everything in a new lines, right? So after printing of this inner for loop, we need to print a new line so that it will go to this to get this particular pattern. For that reason, I will use a print statement after completion of this inner for loop. So that is why I am mentioning a print statement here to get the new line character. So if we could execute this, we are getting this particular pattern that is not what we have in this. So if we could able to observe this particular pattern carefully, we not only having these numbers, but also we are having spaces before these numbers pattern starting here, right? If you could see here, we are having spaces. So to keep track of these spaces, to print these spaces, we will be using a one more variable which is of spaces. I am using the spaces and I am mentioning rows minus 1. Why I am mentioning rows minus 1 is because in the first row, if you could see here, we have a variable, a value 1, and apart from 1, we have spaces of 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 spaces. To keep track of those 4 spaces, I am using the statement as rows minus 1. We can actually put it as 4, but if we change the value of rows, that will be impacted, so we will not get the actual pattern. So for that reason only I am mentioning as rows minus 1. So we have identified these rows, so where we need to put these spaces, right? So if you carefully see here, we need to get these spaces before actually printing the pattern. So for that reason, what I will be doing is that as and when I enter into this outer for loop, I will print these spaces so that later we can print these particular numbers and we will get the pattern. So for this, in outer for loop, I will use a space and I will multiply this space with spaces variable. So and I will use an end parameter which is with nothing. So because by default this end parameter of print having new line character, so I am replacing that new line character with nothing so that we can able to get the pattern. So after completion of this print of spaces, we need to modify these spaces. If you carefully see here, the spaces are reducing on each iteration, right? So for that reason, I will be doing some modification to the spaces. I am mentioning spaces minus equal to 1. By mentioning this, we will reduce those spaces on each iteration after completion of this each inner for loop. So now if we execute this, we can able to get the pattern. That is what we have expected. So I hope you can able to understand this logic. If not, I suggest you to watch this video one more time carefully so that you can able to understand of how we are getting this particular pattern. So now what I will be doing is that I will replace this rows with 5 and I will take input dynamically from the user. So based on the user input, we will print this particular pattern. For that, I am asking user to enter rows. If I execute this, it was asking me to enter rows. If I give value as 6, we can able to get the result which is what we can expected. So in here we are getting the value which starts with 1 go till the value 6. So let's execute this with one more number. Let's say I am giving the number as 9. So if we execute this, we can able to get the pattern that what we have in here. So right, we can able to get this pattern. So I hope you can able to understand this pattern and I hope you have found this video interesting. If that is true, hit the like button. In the next video, we will see how we can print this particular pattern. So to stay updated, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notifications to all so that whenever I upload any video, you will get the notification. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.